Imagine having the ultimate competitive advantage. Imagine every piece of your content attracting ideal clients to you, not chasing them down. That's not a dream, it's what's possible with the right strategy. And if you haven't heard by now, Jeb and LinkedIn expert Bryn Tillman have written the playbook that will evolve the way you sell. Their new book, The LinkedIn Edge, is your ultimate resource for turning LinkedIn into a revenue-generating machine. You'll learn how to prospect with power, network with a purpose, and build a brand that attracts clients to you. Not only that, but they dive into the fundamentals of using AI so that you won't get left behind. Don't wait. The LinkedIn Edge is on sale everywhere you buy books.
Today we have Giselle Ugarte, a renowned performance coach, content creator, top motivational speaker. She's known for her action-forward messaging and programming designed to teach today's leaders how to be more confident, productive, and visible online and especially off. And most recently, she founded the first ever real estate talent bureau, the Talent Brokerage, representing and negotiating on behalf of some of the most influential brokers and influencers in speaking, media, and brand partnerships. With a collective following of more than 500,000 people, and I'm sure that is much larger now since this was written, and more than 100 million views, TikTok named her as one of the top 100 women to watch in 2021, which is a huge, TikTok's a massive brand. Top 100 is incredible. She's also shared the stage with some of the biggest names in the business, like Brendon Burchard and Gary Vee. Do we even have to name any others? That's pretty cool. And she's been featured in Adweek, Forbes, and The Hollywood Reporter, and even more than that for her innovative work. So thank you so much for joining us on the Sales Gravy podcast, and welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. And you're right. It might be time to update the bio a little bit because now our talent brokerage also includes other professionals besides just real estate. But I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to talk all things confidence, communication, visibility, and so much more. I'm sure we'll get into it with you.
This is a huge topic for me right now. I think communication, trust, leadership, teamwork, owning space, confidence, mindset specifically. I think everything starting with the mindset. And I have taken a huge step in my personal world by really turning some ships around in my brain to get myself pointed in the right direction. I've taken on more speaking roles, and I think that this is an area where you are going to help the people in this audience really own their space, to really speak up, and that's a lane that you work in. What is the one thing that really holds people back from doing all of those things and owning their presence? And then to follow up on that, what was your personal breakthrough in that area?
Well, and Jeb, I want to even take a pause there too, because you might have people who are listening who are going, well, I don't want to get on a stage, or I don't need to get, in front of the camera. And the reality is that everything that we're going to talk about today, it doesn't matter if you're picking up the phone and you're not getting on the Zoom calls, although I'm going to encourage you to put your face on video throughout this whole conversation. It really is about how you connect to people and being able to read a room, no matter what that room looks like, but also acknowledging that the future of sales looks very different. Even the future of job applications looks very, very different. I have some of my clients going, hey, can you help my child? Because they have been asked to submit a video resume for a summer job. And so you need to make sure that your soul isn't leaving your body whenever you see that record button or that record light up. And even though I'm talking about, getting on stage, for example, I have a feeling that if you're listening to this, you might not have an invitation to get on stage, but maybe you do have an invitation to present in front of a team, or to lead the board meeting, or maybe it's the state of the company, or maybe it is the sales kickoff. Today's leader is expected to be able to speak up and speak out in much different ways that we're not used to, and perhaps with bigger lights and big fancy microphones. And so I just want to prepare you to be comfortable in any of those circumstances. But you mentioned, what's the thing that's holding people back? And I really believe that one of those things is this concept that nerves are not supposed to exist. Help me to not be nervous or help me to feel ready. You and I were talking offline. I was like, well, what do you think the answer is, Jeb? And you were like, I think it has something to do with self-doubt. And yeah, self-doubt is the thing that keeps people back. But even beyond that, it's that you think that self-doubt isn't supposed to exist, or that you're supposed to be able to just make it magically disappear. Which, if that's the case, you let me know, because what I have found, yes, even being on these massive stages and doing this now for over a decade, I actually get more nervous, Jeb, than I did on day one. Now that I'm getting paid even more, I actually find that, regardless of whatever you believe in, maybe it's the devil after you or the target on your back, as you become more vocal in your mission and vision and purpose. But I honestly, every single time before I go on stage, I have the thought go through my head of, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And what I want anyone listening to take away from this is, if you're getting that feeling, even if it is, before you're making that first cold call, or maybe it's walking into the interview room because you're considering a promotion and you have that feeling of self-doubt, lean into it. Lean into it. And if anything, what I will teach my clients how to do, it's not to eliminate it, it's to actually befriend it and to see it as an indicator of, how can I listen even more intently to what's going on in my head, in my intuition. You mentioned mindset. And I know that there are people listening who they think the mindset thing is a little woo-woo, but please just stick with me for a moment here. And it's actually when we listen to those inner voices of self-doubt, or even have conversations with them. I know that sounds a little weird. It sounds a little crazy. But if, for example, you have a voice inside of you that's telling you, who do you think you are, or you're not good enough, or no one cares what you have to say, I want to encourage you to talk back to that voice, whether it's out loud, or an exercise that I do with a lot of my clients is actually writing things down. In a world where we are so technology driven, we're typing on our phones, we're typing on our keyboards. I want you to pull out, there you go. Jeb's pulling it out if you're watching the video, his journal, his notes. I have all of my clients take notes on every single one of our calls, especially when it comes to affirmations and talking to that voice of self-doubt. Take whatever that voice is saying, flip it on its head and write it out at least 5, 10 times, but turn it into a daily habit, turn it into a daily practice. Even if it's something as silly, and go ahead and take this note if you're listening. I love talking on the phone. I love being on video. I love seeing my face sweat. I love feeling nervous. I love feeling self-doubt. That means that I'm doing something right. Write those things down, because what you're actually doing is you're activating your neural pathways to believe the opposite. And if you do it consistently, you will eventually brainwash yourself for the better to believe the opposite. And one of my breakthroughs was really recognizing that, in actuality, these feelings that I'm having, honestly, sometimes crippling anxiety before I go on stage, Jeb, where I feel like I am glued to my bed and I just want that mattress to swallow me. And like, can I just disappear? Can it be over? One of those breakthroughs was actually recognizing that that's what makes me the most qualified to talk to my audience about confidence, because I know what it's like to experience insecurity. I know what it's like to want to just hide. I know what it's like to have that voice of, you don't matter, or you suck, or who do you think you are? And to be able to lean into it, go through it, pray through it, and get on stage anyway, and allow for my light to eventually shine through, whatever that is. So whatever your stage looks like, I really hope that you pull something that inspires you today.
This is so in the, I guess, the main pool of notes that I'm taking right now. So what I do, and if you were my coach, you'd be so proud of me, is that I journal every single day. I've journaled every single day for the last month and a week or so. And a lot of those notes are very mundane things. Like, I thought I had to have a profound thing, but some of it's like, I got up this morning and I went to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. Good job. I tell myself, good job. Like, I'm having that conversation between the outer me and the inner me, and that inner me, I realized something that what I was trying to do, especially as a salesperson and as a person going up on stage and as a person who's the son with the same name of an internationally known speaker. And like, I was 19 when I got up on a stage in front of 10,000 people for the first time. Every single person I've walked in front of, after 10 years, you feel the same thing. They say, oh, you must be so good at this. You must be just natural for you. You can just go up there and do that. But that breath leaves you like 10 seconds before you get on stage, and your chest goes, oh shit, I have to do this again. and people think we don't get nervous, but I get so nervous. But what I found is that I tried to build a dam in my brain to hold back all of the reactions, all of the nervousness, all of that self-talk and self-doubt. I tried to build a dam to stop those things, and it just kept breaking because it was so weak over time. I couldn't stop it. What I learned, and what you're teaching, and what I could learn from you even more, is redirect it. Like, that nervousness, what I say to myself and what I write down in my notes is, when I get that nervous feeling, I just say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I think I've got this. And when you have that self practice, like what you're talking about, you you start to build habits. And I was a pessimistic person. I had built a pessimistic human being over the last decade or so. For whatever reason, I built a self-doubting person because it protected me from a lot of things that I just didn't want to have to deal with. And it took me a month, and I'm in a completely different place. And it's all just here, like 8 inches here. And look, I'm trying to get better. My team and I are constantly trying to get better. I know a lot of other people who are constantly trying to get better. I imagine most people listening to this podcast probably have the thought late at night when they're going to bed that tomorrow's going to be different. And then they wake up and, well, things aren't very different. So a lot of your coaching is about turning online actions into real world results. And I'm curious, what's a simple daily habit that you recommend for professionals who want to build confidence and see tangible improvements in their performance? What do you coach?
For me, social media and sales and personal branding is actually my way of tricking executives into personal development. Sounds so silly, but I mean, if you're good at sales, which obviously you are, and this is a top podcast, so you talk to these humans all the time, then one of the best lessons that you must know, and even going back to our first question, is you have to know your audience. And I really believe that it's not just about the avatar, oh, they make this much money, or they're female, or they live here. That's great. But do you really know your audience? Do you know what her habits are in the morning? Do you know what's keeping her up at night? Do you know what's distracting her throughout the day that's going to need for you to follow up with her and consistently and via email and also text message and also all those different pieces? Like, do you really know her intimately? And so that's where a lot of the habits that I actually give, it's not just about, how you pump yourself up. It's, are you taking the time to get to know your human on the other side of that phone call, on the other side of that email? Because a lot of us are using technology not as a way to multiply ourselves or optimize our business. It's actually to avoid people.
Mm.
And we have to remind ourselves consistently that sales is about relationships first and foremost. If you are all about the transaction, congratulations, but chances are that's not you, because if you're listening to a podcast about self-improvement and how to better yourself, chances are you care more. You have a mission and a vision that is bigger than just a dollar amount, or perhaps you're looking for a why beyond that dollar amount. You want to figure out how you want to provide for your family, how you want to make your team better. I mean, you've mentioned your team multiple times already on this call, so it's about more than just you and even the legacy that you've been given, Jeb. And so habits that I give my clients is even something really simple. You don't have to post to your feed. You don't have to get on video, although I might give you a challenge. But we call it the Transform 20. So one is, I want you to connect with 5 new people online.
Mm.
So that's 5 new follows on Instagram, 5 new connections on LinkedIn. Typically, this is someone who is either on your calendar or who you just met. Get into the habit of putting your face to your name when you connect. Also allow for that to be encouragement, inspiration, that it might be time to update your profile picture. If you still have the same professional headshot from before the pandemic, babe, it's time. We've got to update. You've probably gained or lost 20 plus pounds since then. You probably have a couple of wrinkles, maybe some more gray hairs, and thank goodness for that, because what we want is authenticity, not perfection. We want connection, not perfection. And so for me personally, and I even use myself as an example, right before the pandemic, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, still don't know the cause or the cure, but in the span of about 3 months, I gained about 50 pounds. And I stopped weighing myself after a certain amount. So it was probably more than that, but I could not even recognize myself when I looked in the mirror. And I tried so hard to Photoshop every single interaction and engagement that I had online, but my clients could see it. And I could see their reaction when they would see, oh my God, what happened? And it wasn't that they were judging me because I was fat. I think they were genuinely concerned and also going, wait, she does not look like her picture. And are you wanting to start a relationship off with dishonesty?
Mm.
I'm going to guess no, because that's not how you carry through a transaction. And so I just want you to look like you look in person. And so take the fat photo, take the skinny photo, take the wrinkled photo, take the freckled photo, take the purple hair photo or the gray hair photo. When your photo follows you everywhere like it does today, in your email signature, in your social media profile, in whatever picture that you're sending with your resume, you want to make sure that that photo looks like you at the end of the day. And so you should be changing out your photo every 6 months, max 12 months, to make sure that it looks like you and your mustache or your comb over or what your glasses, whatever that particular style reflects you. So 5 new connections, 5 meaningful messages. Okay, this isn't 5 cold messages. This isn't 5, hey, are you still interested in, or 5 follow-up messages. This is 5 checking in messages. Hey, I remember that you said that you were training for a marathon. How is that going? And you always want to end with a question mark. The phrase that I hate the most, hopefully you've talked about this on your podcast, is let me know. That is where the lead goes to die. So you always want to have a question. But there's strategy here in personal brand, because if you're in someone's direct messages, different from their email, different from their text, the algorithm is seeing you spend time with each other. And the most meaningful metric on social media right now is time. It doesn't matter if you follow someone or if you like someone or if you comment on someone's post. If you're spending time somewhere, that is going to maximize on your profile. So, for example, if your feed looks like a dumpster fire, that's because you probably like to play with fire. If it's filled with people who you don't like, that means that you're hanging out or spending time with people who you don't actually like. So if there is someone who you're hoping will see your content, a great trick, but again, it's not a trick, it's a tool, is to go inside of their DMs and simply have some back and forth conversation. Ask them about their kids, ask them about a project they were working on, give them congratulations, let them know they're inspiring you, offer gratitude or even perhaps condolences, but spend some time checking in with them in the direct messages, 5 direct messages in some cases per day. 5 meaningful comments is another one. So again, a lot of us are in just this numbness of scrolling, and you might just double tap at something or like something if it interests of you. But in reality, even though we have a like obsessed culture, likes are probably the most passive form of engagement online. It's honestly overrated, and I don't believe is really an indication of if your content is hitting. So if you want to get the same type of attention of having meaningful comments, of having a legitimate community, create the community that you want to attract. So take some time, and when you open up your feed, don't just start scrolling and numbing. Be really intentional. And if there is something that you like, I want you to leave a meaningful comment of 2 to 3 sentences and add some context in there. So, for example, you could just leave a smiley face or this is great or congratulations, or you could take that as an opportunity to reintroduce yourself. For example, oh my goodness, as a sales professional, this means so much to me. I tell this to my team all of the time, and it is incredibly inspiring. You could even potentially ask a question there. What's one thing that helps you in the morning? Just having a moment of conversation, a moment of memorability, because they will love that tap on the back of like, hey, good job. But also, hopefully, it will lead to some conversation so that if eventually you do have an ask of them, you've been supporting their content for a while, they know your face. But here's another thing that this does, Jeb, is when you do things like direct messages, when you do things like leaving meaningful comments, and it's intentional, I actually found that a lot of my clients, their screen time reduces significantly.
Hmm.
Why? Because for a lot of us, we open up our screens when we're doing nothing at all, waiting in the elevator, sitting on the toilet, passing time in the carpool pickup line. And so you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and your brain is searching for that dopamine. You're just looking for something to make you happy or to make you want to share it. You're waiting for that dopamine hit. However, when you make it intentional that I'm going to open up my screen, I'm going to send these comments, I'm going to send these messages, you're going to give someone that gratitude, you're creating that dopamine, except for here's the fun thing. The dopamine is based off of real, actual completion and achievement versus the fake dopamine that we get that's more like a drug where you get the short-term gratification of entertainment. This time you're actually doing something. You're building a relationship, you're making somebody feel good, and you're also checking something off of the list. And so it serves a purpose of building your business, creating relationships, but also making you feel good and hopefully reducing some of the distraction throughout the day. Last but not least, 5 one-to-one videos. This is going to make people sweat. This is going to make people shut me out. But I promise you, just Stick with me here. And that is sending 5 one-to-one videos. What's a one-to-one video? It's a video that is for one person, created by one person. So one to many would be if you put a video on LinkedIn or if you put it on Instagram. One to one is just on your phone. Hopefully you have your phone number or your friends with each other on social media so you can send a video over the DM, and it's like a voicemail. Okay, some of you listening might remember when we used to leave those and they would have to be 60 seconds or less, or else you would hear the little dude, you'd have to start over again. And so you want to think about it from that lens. You're leaving a video voicemail. And here's what I love about it, Jeb, is that when you leave that one-to-one video, it forces your brain that previously might be afraid of the camera or hate being on video. And all of a sudden you are visualizing the person on the other side of that screen. Because remember, we were talking about don't forget who is on the other side. And that's really what the Transform 20 is all about. Reminding you of the humans that you serve, the people that you serve, who you're doing this for. So sending a one-to-one video just saying, hey, I was just thinking about you. And here's why. Maybe you saw some Siete potato chips, or you saw a house that you know that they were looking at, or maybe it was that you had an awesome day and you had another client who reminded you of them. Maybe you felt really inspired by them. Gratitude, celebration, birthdays, even sympathy can all be ways where it would make such a difference to see your face versus just getting a text message that says the same thing. They can watch it over and over. It's a pattern interruption where they're used to getting texts all day long. Their inbox is always full. But all of a sudden, wait, I got a video from Jeb instead. This is interesting. What does Jeb want to say to me? And you're making someone's day at the same time you're training your brain to have more confidence, communication, brevity, and celebration. And that's my long assignment. But again, one of those daily habits where you can do 20 every day, or I have some clients who they'll do one of each every single day. And those habits, it's crazy how much confidence can develop over time. But also I say, hey, that's a way to wake up 20 leads. What would happen if in your business, if you woke up 20 leads today? Chances are it would change some things. And so I know that on your wall, you have one more call. For me, it's going to be one more video, just one more video or one video period. And who knows, it could change your life.
You know what? Mic drop. I've been telling y'all this for so long. I send video messages. The thing that I started out with, like 2020, when I started really diving into training and virtual selling and what this business was, I mean, these human connections with LinkedIn, these are the things that you should be doing. And I always have these conversations, and I think people like you and I who sit on podcasts have these prescriptions, and people are listening are like, those are great, those are good ideas. And then when it comes to the rubber meeting the road, they have that self-doubt, or they have that challenge, and then they feel inauthentic. And one thing you mentioned in a keynote that you did is that the hardest brand to brand is a human.
Yeah.
And I think that what I struggle with, that I imagine a lot of listeners struggle with, and probably you struggle with, is that that fine line of authenticity. Like, you don't want to be overly authentic in that, you know, if I'm giving sympathy, or we had a conversation about, you know, chips that we both liked, and I just really poured it on about those chips. I might have an audience that goes, I didn't really think that was like a big part of this conversation, but I guess you really glommed onto it. And then, you know, with social media, asking questions. So, you know, people it's out of their comfort zone. And I think that's why the passive like is so exciting, because you get to say, like, I like this, but I don't have to like say anything about this.
Right.
How do you help people kind of balance that authenticity and feeling like a real human, taking the right picture with the right thing that follows you around, with the gray hairs and the freckles and I've got like pimples that happen every now and then, but like having that like authenticity without, I think, being, dismissive of your audience's, like, I guess, position or what they think, and also not being so inauthentic that it comes off like everyone else that is inauthentic that we know on the internet. That's a big question, but like, what are your thoughts around that?
Absolutely. And there's so many different pieces to it too. So there's the part about, well, what are they going to think? What are they going to think? Are they going to think that I'm unprofessional, is a fear that a lot of people I work with have. Well, I don't want to come off as unprofessional, because do they really care about my kids, or do they really want to know what I had for lunch? And so what I simply say is, well, what would it be like for you to be on the other side of this? And who are the people who you genuinely enjoy following? Because where you might think that someone is cringe, that's the word that we hear a lot. Cringe, the cringe-worthy content, the content that makes you goes, oh, why are they doing that? Well, if you don't like it, then great. Don't do that. Don't force yourself to do something that feels inauthentic to you. You don't want to dance? Great. Don't dance. I don't need you to. That's not the point. Instead, you really want to be thinking about what are the types of interactions that I have with my clients? Because as you know, when it comes to sales, there are so many different tiers to it. For some of you, your interaction with your customer, it's a customer, it's not a client. It's a customer. It is someone who you really are cold calling them. You barely know who they are versus there are some of you who you go on vacations with your clients. You know their whole family. They've seen you with your shirt off at the pool. and
No,
and
they
so
have not, Giselle. No, they have not.
And so you really want to be thinking about what is the relationship that I have with my client? What is the relationship that I want to have with my client? And also, how can I get to know them on a human level?
Mm.
So, whether that is asking them about their finances, or maybe it is asking them about how many children they have and the legacy that they want to leave, or it could be something as simple as the type of technology that they use, or things that do or don't work for them when it comes to sending their emails, or what they would rather be spending time doing, or what they did over the weekend. They're just little different pieces to that. But I do think that a lot of the times when it is a pushback, Jeb, it is because of irrational fears that your brain is creating rather than actual circumstances that are going on. And usually, if you're nervous about what somebody will think, it actually has very little to do with your customer or your client. And it has more to do with the rest of your network on, say, LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. And who does that consist of? Maybe it is everyone and their mom who they have been following you on Facebook since you were in high school or college. Maybe it is on LinkedIn, where it is the people who you went to college with, including perhaps your former colleagues or maybe that boss who you really don't like. Maybe it is Instagram and it might be that ex of yours, or maybe it's that ex friend of yours or that frenemy of yours, or it could even be your friends and your family. And that's another one that I have fun with because even just last week, I had my mom going, are you sure you want to post that? And my mom and my brothers will still ask me the question, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to post that?" And I really love what you said earlier of the thank you for wanting to protect me because I get that with my family of thank you for wanting to protect me in whatever it is that you're projecting onto me because sometimes it's actually the ones who care about us the most who have the most to say unsolicited always. But the line that I want you to really be thinking about that you might have to say out loud, but chances are it's in your head is respectfully, you are not my audience. Or perhaps for you, it's respectfully, you are not my customer. You really need to put your earmuffs on whenever you're creating your content and be thinking about who is it that I'm wanting to reach? Because it could be that, yes, someone's judging you. Yes, someone's cringing, but are they ever going to be your customer? Because my brother will never be my customer, will cheer me on forever. My dad, I could never do wrong. I'm the only girl, the youngest, the baby. I could never do wrong. He will always be cheering me on, but never going to be my customer. Same thing with my mom. Same thing with some of my best friends. They just will never get it. They will never understand it. And so you want to be thinking about, okay, who is my customer? But I also want you to be thinking about what are some of the connectors for me and my customer? Okay. And write that word down. Connectors. What are some of the connectors? What do I mean by connector? What I mean is that if they see you talking about something or posting about something, they can see themselves in you. So for example, I know that for me, family values are really important. For my clients, they are not the ones that are trying to make $1 million. They probably already have, if not tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars for their business. At this point, they're more concerned about time. They're really intentional about their time. They're really intentional about their family. And it's not necessarily a 50-50 balance, but they do want to make sure that they are being a great dad. They do want to make sure that they are being a great example for their daughters. And so for me, I don't have children and I'm not married, but I do constantly post about my family. I call my parents my kids because I'm in a season of life where because I'm not married and don't have kids, they're basically my kids. If the invitation for the birthday says bring your children, I will bring my parents. They come with me pretty much everywhere. And so what that does though is it shows my audience I have family values. I very much value my family. I call my dad every single night. We FaceTime at least once, sometimes twice a day. And you might even be listening to this going, oh my gosh, I can relate to her. Or, oh my gosh, I wish my dad was still around. That's a connector. Or for example, when it's football season, I have, two fandoms that I'm so tragically a part of in this day and age, which is the USC Trojans, where I went to college, very strong alumni network. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, the Minnesota Vikings, where I was born and raised. It is so sad. It is so, I know.
I'm from the South. I have no connections to either of those teams, so thank God.
Right. Thank God. Totally. So there's no conflict. But even when there is, there are so many who they respect the fandom and they also love that I love football. And by me showing that I love football, that also shows, oh my gosh, wait, maybe we should invite Giselle to the football game. How fun when the client sees that you like something and they go, let me invite you to whatever it is. So what are some things that mean a lot to your customer, your client? Is it the home that they live in? Is it geographically where they live? Where you mentioned being from the South, football in the South is like a totally different, like I think I know being from the USC era, but like there's something totally, I just moved to Austin and I live right next to UT. So I'm about to experience like a whole nother level. And I know that you over there and the Georgias and the Alabamas and all that stuff.
Be careful with that Texas talk.
I know. I mean, see, we're already, I'm sweating a little bit. So, but again, it's little things where how are you making it easier for people to connect with on your Zoom calls even? For example, I have a lot of clients who the first call, they have the blurred background on Zoom because they think that's more professional, or they have the fake background of their logo on Zoom. Okay, but what if I did see your Peloton back in the corner? What if I did see the photo of your family on your shelf? What if I did see Atomic Habits or, a book that you love or a movie, or maybe it's a baseball hat, or again, just something on your shelf where that can create connection faster than even you having to say it. So are you finding ways to do that? You can also do that really easily on your headline. So one of my clients is the president of a company, and in her headline, she has that she's a mom of 4 and that she's a proud Wolverine because she went to
University of Michigan.
Yeah. So in addition to being the president of the company and being a multi-times best-selling author and speaker, but she also has some of those little connectors because she can be really difficult to connect with otherwise. And so little things like that not only create those connections, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is humanize you. And you mentioned, I've worked with corporate brands, I've worked with personal brands. The hardest brands to humanize are humans. So how can we humanize you to your customer to where they don't feel like you're just trying to sell, sell, sell? It's that, no, I really want to help you. I really want to be your friend and I really want to help you. And how can we humanize you as quickly as possible, perhaps before you even get on that first phone call?
Amen. Hallelujah. I wish we could spend like 4 more hours. There's so many little places where I think that this applies. So many different little nuances within your own personal brand that you need to go back and take a look at. I'm now thinking about 15 things I got to do this afternoon to make myself look more human. So Giselle, this is incredible. I want to add just one final thought to exactly what you've said, because they're not your audience. I want to go back to that, that thought, which is, remember, if the people who are telling you no or rejecting you with your branding and how you're going and approaching and sending videos, if they are not your customer, then it does not matter. And one thing that I've really had to work on personally myself is I'm going to put myself out there as authentically as I am to the audience that I have. And it is not my job to have their reactions. I cannot assign their reactions. All of those fears that are in my head, those are completely my fears, and I cannot assign them to other people. I can only do the best I can. Everything else is uncontrollable. So if you're trying to control reactions that are out there in the world, you are failing yourself, because they're not seeing who you really are. And those things that make you who you really are, the connectors that make people want to buy from you. People love to buy from people that they know, they trust, that listen to them. And those are authentic human beings. Giselle, thank you so much for your time here on the Sales Gravy podcast. we should really deep dive into some of these topics on other podcasts in the future, because I think that this audience needs to figure out how to get their branding exactly to where you teach it, because I know for a fact that based on your success in this field, that they would be able to sell a lot more. Giselle, just before we leave this podcast, where can people go to connect with you, find you, and learn more from you?
Yes. And even before that, we mentioned the respectfully or not my audience. One more little phrase I want to leave your audience with is someone would be so lucky to hear from me. Even though you have no control over the reaction of someone else, you do have the control of your mindset to believe that you are worthy of being heard from. And so with the mindset of before you get on that call, before you film the video, someone would be so blessed to hear my message today. Someone would be so lucky to get my product today. That's also the other side of that, to turn it into a positive and to empower you to go further. But yes, if you have any questions, if you want to take this further, LinkedIn and Instagram is where I play the most. Giselle Ugarte is me. And if you listen to this podcast, if there was a nugget that you took away, I would love to hear from you. So please send me a message there.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on the Sales Gravy Podcast.
Hi, I'm Jeb Blount, best-selling author of Fanatical Prospecting, Sales EQ, Objections Inked, and my brand new book, The LinkedIn Edge. Companies and people from all over the world come to me to get answers to their toughest sales and growth questions. And that's why I created Ask Jeb. It's a segment on the Sales Gravy podcast where you can come and ask me anything. If you want to get on the show, just go to salesgravy.com/ask. That's salesgravy.com/ask. One of our great producers will get you on and you can ask me anything about sales. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to click like and subscribe so you never miss a single video. And if you want more sales training content, go to learn.salesgravy.com.